When the caddisfly is ready to come out of the pupal stage and fly away, it's at the top of the water. It crawls out of its pupal shell, and we call that emerging. So this is going to be a caddisfly emerger. You would fish this fly during the time when the caddisflies are coming out of the pupa and flying away. They're on the top of the water. Easy prey. I'm going to tie this on a number 14 dry hook. I guess you want to do it on a dry hook because it's going to float on top of the water. The thread I'm using is 8/0 black. I'm going to use for the tail some fibers off of this brown hackle feather. The body will be 2 strands of peacock herl. The wings are coming off of a duck quill. This is cheap quill that I got at Hobby Lobby. And the front hackle is partridge. So I've got my thread back to the bend of the hook. Grab a few fibers off of this feather and tie in a tail. Hook length is way plenty. Now I have found that if I spin my thread counterclockwise, it works to work itself back against my fingers. It's kind of like a pinch wrap effect to grab whatever it is I'm tying in. So tie in the tail, clip off the extra here, take my thread back up to the tie-in point, 2 strands of peacock herl, and because peacock herl is fairly delicate, breaks rather easily, I am going to make a rope. So to make the rope, I do like a dubbing loop with the thread. Take the herl down into that dubbing loop and twist it into the thread. And that adds the thread, 2 strands of thread into the herl and makes it much stronger. Less prone to break off or be bitten off. So I'm going to pull out enough thread here to create my loop. Tie that back in, wind it forward. Grab the 2 pieces of herl, bring them down along the thread. Then I'm going to take my dubbing pliers. Oh, I broke that out. Well, just wind it back in, I guess. That's a good illustration of how weak that herl is, how easily prone to breaking it is. I'll just tie it back in. Yeah, kind of made a mess. And I could just start the video over, but you know, let's be realistic with this whole tying flies thing and show that when you make a mess, you just kind of figure out how to clean it up. So there I have the thread and the herl. If I wind it clockwise, then it doesn't come unwound as easily when I wrap it on the hook shank. So then I'm just taking my herl rope. It's not a fat body, And I may need to keep winding or rewind as I go, as I wrap it. And I'm going to wrap it up to where I have that thread tied in, where I'm going to tie in my wings. Leave enough room behind the eye of the needle, or eye of the hook, to tie in the front hackle. So I have these two pieces of duck wing quill, and I'm going to lay them together with their concave sides together so that they are in towards each other. Try to line up the ends. And then I want them as long as the hook is, down to the bend of the hook. Again, if I twist my thread counterclockwise, then it comes up and grabs that nicely. I'm going to do just a couple of loose loops and then pull it tight, and I have a wing. Come under the wing end here before I clip that out. And I'm just going to wrap that up. Then I'm going to grab those hackle pliers again, and I have found that if I grab the feather with the pliers before I tie the feather in, then it's easier to grab the feather. So now I'm going to lay that on top of my wing. I've stripped off all the fuzzy stuff on the bottom of that partridge. Wrap it around that stem a couple times. Pick the stem up, wrap under it. Then I can clip that stem out. Give myself a little bit of room. And wrap the hackle. Couple of wraps, or as many as I have hackle for. The instructions call for a hackle that's 1.5 times the hook gap. That's about as much as I have hackle. Tie that off. And I have found that I can take the pliers off, pull that hackle back, and put some wraps on there so that when I cut that tip out, it doesn't come unraveled or unwound. And then I can wrap on a head. I will whip finish this, put some head cement to keep that knot from coming untied. And I have a Caddisfly emerger. This is from the Fling and Puterbaugh book, where the emphasis in tying flies is to imitate nature, not so much to imitate a pattern. That patterns are created by variations in these basic patterns, but this is intended to have the appearance of a caddisfly as it is crawling out of the pupal shell in the emerger stage. And as always, just a little bit of cleanup. Grab this guy that's sticking out in front. A little bit of head cement to make sure that that knot doesn't come untied. And then I like to poke I'm actually using a nut hook for my bodkin. Poke it through the eye. Just make sure the eye is clean.